and we can do this fun game where I look behind my shoulder to see who's out in Zoom land. So for those that want to see who's playing at home and what partying gifts we're going to offer, that's the crew here today, friends. So welcome everyone. If I'm looking out and down and all the things, it's because we're doing this hybrid, and I want to make sure to try to engage everyone as best as possible. So today the goal and the hope is that this be interactive. I see we have a dog or a cat in the audience, which is new and interesting for me. I like to see that. Oh, well, there you go. That's how often I'm here. Dee Davis has brought her pet to work, and so we're excited for that. Okay, friends, so we're going to get started today. I want to talk about hard conversations, and this is a business that's filled with these. And if you're not comfortable with them, I encourage you to become more comfortable with them. And I'm hoping today provides some of that opportunity and insight. And you probably saw in the course title that I have put several things that we want to cover here, such as commissions, retainer fees, asking for the business, firing clients, team conflicts, price reductions, setting boundaries, relationships, pet advice, anything you need today. We're going to cover it in hard conversations. And we did a panel on this last year. And so I'm going to share with you, and I'll put it in the chat there, of the link from the panel last year that we did that covered a lot of things. And this is more about a dialogue today, in the spirit of it being a conversation versus like, here's the slideshow and the PowerPoint tips and things like that. So feel free to take notes of things that that speak to you today and ways that may help your business. So I want to start off with just the concept of hard conversations. And in some of my research with these, I'm reminded that these aren't easy. And that seems almost silly to say, but truthfully, I think sometimes we underestimate the sensitivity and the importance of these conversations. And I really believe there's some of the nuance or the magic that makes me a more skilled agent than most people that I come across. And I say that with great humility, but as Bobby, you taught me, it's about laying the nails. I would like to be first in the presentation because I will lay the nails for all the things that the other agents won't address, or they won't address clearly. So know that these are not easy, okay? Don't underestimate the severity of it, and be prepared for it. The second is communicate your message assertively, clearly, and directly. And so it's too often, I think, when we're having difficult conversations, we have a tendency to overtalk. And we expect that people are going to guess what we're really trying to say. You see this probably enormously with your family and your siblings and your children and your pets and all the things. And it's just like, be direct, be clear, be assertive. Don't be afraid of this. And if you are, role play it. There's so many ways, and there's so many fellow agents that you can have the role play conversation. And I encourage this amongst the mentor programs and Jumpstart and all these things, that you have the conversations that you most dislike, so that it's just easy. So when they say to you, will you, someone else, Joe from Keller says he'll do it for 2%. Often what they'll do is either just stop there. Now that's not a question, but we interpret that as a question. So there's many ways that we could respond to that. Clear, concise, and short tends to be the best. And you may want to clarify, don't assume that's what they're asking for. They're simply trying to go fishing to see what you will do and what you'll take. And most agents will go, I'll do it for that. It just will. I really believe that life is a place that you don't get what you don't ask for. So ask if it's reasonable or seems in alignment with what you're trying to achieve, including just asking people for help, which includes your sellers. And we'll get to that. Brainstorm that with them for solutions. So don't stick on the problem too long. So one way with respect to commissions might be, somebody says, Joe at Keller will do it for 2%. Is that something you would honor or entertain? Typically, depending on, there's so much nuance to this question, but the answer is no. And let me explain why. And I'm interested to hear your feedback about my policy around this and my offering. Okay. And know what that is. So have that already prepared. I believe you should have your commission and your retainer fees or base commissions and all that. It should be printed. It should be in writing somewhere. It should be, most of you aren't doing paperwork in person, but if it wasn't, it should be pre-printed in the listing agreement when you sit down with them to show them the documents. It should be in your buyer and seller consultation. It gives it more legitimacy when it's that, but they're still going to ask, and it's becoming a much more prevalent problem in my personal experience. After you discuss the problem with them, so it might be commission, how do you think we can overcome this problem? How do you think we can overcome this difference? Would be a question you might ask the other person. And before you offer your solutions, let them share. Just let them share. Typically, they're not comfortable or prepared to have that. They don't know why they want it for less other than somebody else is willing to do it for less. Let's go back to the conversation about people that will pay more for things that provide value. Haircuts, toilet paper, toothpaste, phones, cars, everything. Everything you own and are was made in a choice based on value, right? And so you don't want to get into some psychology lesson with them, but you can drive it in that way in helping them understand the distinction that it's like the old, you get what you pay for, but I feel like that's really tired. And people, it sounds salesy. It just sounds salesy. And that's the last thing I really want to be. I want them to feel so comfortable and at ease and confident that like, this dude's in control. He's very at peace with what he's doing and why. And I think that's where agents aren't coached well enough to be comfortable with the uncomfortable, because a lot of what we deal with is the uncomfortable. And we have to be really great at helping posture and contextualize the uncomfortable, right? So there's a reason you're at Village, right? Because of our fees are different than other places. You're always evaluating what's the value. What do I get out of it versus what I put into it? And for everybody, the sellers and buyers, they're always making those evaluations, considerations. So if they don't bring it up, bring it up. Let's talk about how I get paid and use language that's more conversational and commonplace than commissions and splits and caps and fees. And let me just tell you how I get paid. Because some people I think misunderstand. I don't take for granted that I think they know, or they've heard it from their friend, just like they know what their house is worth, right? So they don't know how we really get paid. They just know we're overpaid. And the last person they used didn't find the house. They didn't even find our house. I say good news, because that's a very small part of what my role is with us. Finding the house is a team sport. That's easy. They're everywhere. We have the internet for that. So what do I do now? Where do I earn my keep? It's when we get into evaluation of the process and managing and stewarding that to a successful closing. It's kind of like the pilot. He ain't flying the plane anymore, friends, but you're damn happy he's sitting up there, or she. True? And there's a really cool, if you Google it, you might find it. There's an 88 things that can go wrong with a real estate transaction document that you can give to your sellers. And you just say, put this in the drawer. And if I call you and say, we've got a number 46, you'll know it's time to pay attention. And I know what to do with a 46. The airlines know what to do if they lose your bag. They have a whole plan. They have a whole system and plan. That is not part of the plan, but they have a plan for when that happens. The same thing goes when somebody asks me, will you take less commission? Or Joe at Keller's going to do it for 2%. Poor Joe. You know, there's a reason maybe Joe is doing it for 2%. But let me explain to you why and when I make those concessions and considerations. So have a plan, okay? How do you think we can overcome this problem? And then I would have some solutions to share with them, giving them some chance and choice. So with commissions, well, I also want to mention, keep all decision parties in the communication. Don't have the conversations without the appropriate decision makers there, or on the call, or on the text, or set up a Zoom, or do a FaceTime. All those things, I think that we have so many tools now. It's not like you had to drive over there or they're out of town. FaceTime, Zoom, WhatsApp, whatever, they're all there. Great, great, great resources. Okay, so commissions. It's a fee for service, just like the price of a car, a gallon of milk, a plumber. Like I said, I have a loyalty program. And so part of that loyalty program, I want to explain, why do I have this? Is this really a discount? I'm not discounting my services, but if you've bought, sold, or referred a closed sale in the last year, or a family member, or I added a veteran military service, or a multi-sale deal in 1 year with a builder developer. And you can see, for those that are playing at home and can't see, I will share my loyalty discount here so that you all can see it. And I appreciate those in the audience here that are playing along. And yes, I know, Yolanda, you asked if I can share screen. I'm not really sharing too much. I mean, I'm just reading some notes I had to myself. So I just shared my loyalty program notes there. I would love your feedback on that. For those, can you all see this enough? Okay, great. And by great, I mean not great. Everybody nodded no for those at home. So let me explain here. So basically it's under 251,000. Why 251, Ted? Because everything's priced at 250. So I don't want to take a cut because I'm, all right, so I'm cheap. 251, you get 500 off the listing side brokerage fee. 251 to 500, 750. 201 to 750, 1,000. This will be in the recording too. 751 to 1,000,000, 1,500. 11 to 2, 2,000. 21 and above, 2,500. If I sell in-house, the sales 5%. Sometimes, because they often ask if the buyer, they won't ask does the buyer, if the buyer doesn't have an agent, but they think that if it, so just cover it on the front end, because the what ifs might happen, and therefore we would have already covered that. When by in-house, I mean in-house, like within my team or within me. The buyer is unrepresented. I do not ever represent both parties, and I explain to them why. That'd be like having the same attorney. How do you remain unbiased? It doesn't work. I'll leave this up at the end too, so you guys can zoom in if you want to take that. And like I said, it's in the chat as well and all the things. But I used to reduce my commission by 0.5%. And what I learned and realized quickly was 0.5%, nobody knows what that means. First of all, few people can do math well, and you're giving away too much of the store. It's 16% of your fee. I don't know about you, but there's not many professions that are great at what they do that are discounting their service by 16%. Like, why? Because somebody else values their service at 16% less? That's wonderful. I'm very peace and confident, and I can share with you a list of clients and customers that felt that my services were well above beyond what they had experienced in the past for comparable compensation. And I want them to feel good about it. Like, and I say that I want at the end of this, you to feel good about it. Don't get me wrong. It's expensive. I'm frugal. Like I'm mindful about where I put my dollars. And I know this, and I witness it every day. A poor representation, be it a selling or buying, will cost you way more than what our service fees are. And if you'd like some examples, I'm happy to give them. I have a beautiful one that I just did an absolute dissection. Let's show it, shall we? This I will share screen, and I think it's just fun. Let's see here. Oh gosh, you guys are gonna love this one, by the way. Let's do share screen. Boy, we're just looking good here, aren't we? All right, everybody at home, welcome to my coming soon listing. You're hearing it here first. This is on 11th Avenue and 12th South. It is, they apparently engaged an agent with Keller Williams. And their narrative to me was, well, we ended up hearing that Keller Williams just likes to sell homes fast. So they came in and said the house was worth $530. And we said, that's ridiculous. And they were a family friend. So they didn't hire that agent that was the family friend, and it disrupted their friendship. And they hired Ryan Garris with usrealty.com LLP. I haven't heard of him, but that's okay, you know. But I do have some concerns about this listing. So it was listed, let's just start at the top, shall we? Let's look at the subdivision here. This is a favorite of mine where we don't change the subdivision that auto-populates for tax record. McAllister is an up-and-coming area. You might have heard of it. Me neither. Let's see the public remarks. It's 5-bedroom and 3 full bath home. I think that's covered down here. For those at home, I'm just pointing on screen of where things are. Does this seem like a 500 characters worth of goodness in which you'd want to come buy this home? Not my favorite front photo, but okay, has merit. Maybe when they were hurrying, it was a drive-by. I was interested at 183 days on market. How many written offers did you have? I see you listed at 750, 205 a foot. What a bargain today. But at the time when another agent who I know has been in the business over 10 years at that time told them 530, where do you think my confidence in that lies? These are things though, and when you're going to have that meeting, having that data and information is going to better help you understand potentially what you're going to be up against. We having fun yet? Asbestos construction siding. I always like to disclose that if that's a known fact, but I doubt anybody's really confident on that. The roof is other. They were in a hurry. It's a 3-story home. And, but I guess all 366.6 are on the same level, or they just didn't have time to measure that or get that taken care of. Here's my favorite. This is really my favorite. After I've gone through, and just so those that want to know like what's coming, I'm either going to be selling this whole house or I'm going to sell the back half of the lot for the right to build. So I've engaged some builders because it's zoned it is not an HPR yet. It will go HPR. So I'm exploring the possibility of the seller wanting to sell off the back half of their lot, which you can't do. You can sell the right to it. It's kind of interesting. I'm learning for them to build an HPR. And they were wondering, they said, before she signed the listing document, she said, I thought it was 3%. Because in the commission, you know, in the listing, it says 3%, and they get confused. Why does it say 6 and then 3? Well, it's this magical thing called reading that none of us do. And so in there, it describes why the 3%. And is, I think one of the benefits when describing commission is to start with what you recommend they offer as a competitive market buyer's broker commission, and that they understand this is the comparative market commission, competitive market commission. It's not set by law. It's not set by anything other than it's the going price of poker. Okay, there's places that will sell you cheaper gas, and gas kind of is a commodity. But when it comes to haircuts and cell phones, people typically make different decisions based not just on price, but of outcome. And it's no different in our industry. And so I explained to them, I'd recommend you offer the buyer's brokerage a competitive market commission of 3%. And in the inverse of that, and I say the buyer's brokerage, so it's a common way, it's a popular way when agents get started to do that because the overhead tends to be lower. And it's a great place to start in the industry. So you'll see a lot of agents that go on a team. This is the narrative with the client. They go on a team and they're a buyer's agent. Okay. In the inverse, I've gone through all the things that I do as part of a listing. I have a page in my presentation with a pie chart, and it shows me, brokerage, other, seller side, same pie chart on the other side. And I just lay it out for them really, really clear and transparent right there. And I say, in the inverse, I work for 3%. And I do a big 6 in the corner. I draw on the page and I say, and this is where we get to the 6% that you've probably commonly heard. But let me please address a common question, and that is, well, what would you do it for 5, or would you do it for less, or those type of things? But nonetheless, I love this is I haven't seen this a lot, but it told me a lot about the scenario. And I didn't look at this until after I broke a rule that I did not pull all expired and withdrawn listings when I took the listing, and I know better than that, because we were doing this hybrid thing, just selling the back lot. 1,000 V. So the V just means it's variable if the listing agent was to potentially double end the deal. All right. The 1,000 is what the buyer's brokerage, not the broker, not the agent, the buyer's brokerage would get paid, right? Well, I did this little description. I just said customary market compensation is 3% for buyer's brokerage, 1,000 often decreasing showings. Most agents require a buyer pay the delta if seller offering less than 3%. For example, I have a listing that or a buyer that just went to make an offer on a home that's $815,000 in the nations for a skinny house. I think it's crazy. And she loved it. And so did I. And we went to draft the offer. And me being so out of swing with looking at the compensation as that being a new variable that everyone's trying different things, it said 2. Now, if a builder's offering 2% in this market when they're charging the highest price ever charged for a home in the nations of an HPR, I take issue. If everyone's taking a haircut and we're all trying to bring a deal together, I've got more grace for us taking haircuts on our fees. When you're charging $815,000 and I can see what you paid for the dirt and I know what you've done here, it's greed. And I'm ready to just campaign in front of the house because I just think it's such poor practice. So I went to Facebook and I found all our mutual friends and I saw their pictures of them flying private flights with their dad, who's also a part of the developer. And I just started calling and texting some of the mutual friends that we had about what their knowledge of working with this builder was, because I want to understand the why. I want to get to like, what's with this? That being said, I had to conversate with my client that you would be responsible, because she's already signed a buyer's rep, for the delta, for the difference between the 2% offering by the builder and the 3% for what is my fee. Wasn't uncomfortable to have the conversation. It was a great new chance for me to have a hard conversation, but I was like prepared for it. I was like, and it wasn't like, could she afford it, or did I feel bad, or could I just be like, that's what they're paying, so like that's what I work for, whatever they pay I work for. I mean, I'll make it up, and the karma's this. You can choose that business model. I think you're worth it. And if you don't, then like we have other classes for that too. Like I can help you understand your value and know what that is. And it doesn't matter if you've been in business 2 weeks or 20 years, you have value and it's worth a fee that you establish and decide. Okay. But I like this the most because I knew she was a therapist. We had talked on the phone with her and her husband. It's a divorce situation. And I just said, $1,000 is 4.4% of the customary 3% commission, which would be $22,500 paid to the buyer brokerage. 3% of $750,000. This would be the equivalent of paying $6.66 for a therapist's $150 an hour rate. I just got chills. Would any therapist work for $6.66? Just be pro bono. At that point, just be free. Because that's what that would be worth to me. I'd rather call it and write the tax deduction as just goodwill. So you can see I have some passion around this, but this was my little dissection of what clearly and blatantly, oh, don't miss this, friends. Let's go to the photos, shall we? Hey, yo, these look lovely. Do you think we should open the blinds? We got in a hurry. Just keep moving. This looks lovely. We staged. Did you have time to turn the lights on? Just stop talking. I'm taking pictures. It's got a great. Now, don't be fooled, friends. This isn't the lighting in here. This is how great they look. This is my favorite. This is straight out of the MLS, the sideways basement bath. Intriguing. There's an agent that used to put a pug as the first picture, and RealTracs changed the rules that the photos have to relate to the house. Ali was a creative, former village agent, that would put a pug dog as the first photo, and it got some attention. Point being here is that, before I move on, any questions about this or about commission conversations? I know I'm ranting here. You can tell I'm so passionate about it, but like, it's common, right? We get into this quite a bit. Yes. We got to withdraw our offer. We got to withdraw our offer. I put an offer on another house that last night or yesterday at noon that was priced at $699 with a detached. It was also detached HPR, but it was big. It was wide. It was on a corner lot. We went in with $100,000 escalation and we lost because somebody who paid cash with no appraisal. We offered $25K appraisal gap coverage, but I knew that was the danger. So we could go up to, we offered 708. We went up to 818. It's our escalation and we lost. But before we did that, I got to withdraw our offer, our revised offer, because the builder came back to us after we made an offer on that house. And I called one of those mutual friends about that. And it was another agent who's a longtime agent. He says, Ted, I have a secret for you. I can't negotiate commission with the listing side, but the buyer can. Because I just tell my buyers, are you open? You're going to have to pay this fee if we don't do this, the delta. Are you open to want to put that in special stipulations that the seller pay the buyer's brokerage, not the broker, the buyer's agent? No, we don't get paid from them. Now, we all know that the compensation agreement, it shouldn't be a part of the contract, but because they're offering less than this agent, it's a lawful order. The buyer can do it. And I had never thought or done it, but you just need to be considerate in the language. And I know we're spending a lot of time on this, but I feel like this problem is going to become a lot more prevalent as whether it's greed or market conditions or whatever, competition is going to drive down the service offering to buyer's agents. It's not if, it's when, and it's happening. And so you need to be prepared. And it's okay to work for 2% or $1 or $1,000 or whatever you decide. Just do it intentionally and consistently so that you don't get called to tape on fair housing issues. That's why you don't just go, oh, I'll give you a discount on this one or this one. You know, if you get audited or fair housing comes or there happened to be somebody that was a tester, it's an easy slip up that I think agents make. So just have a plan and be consistent. Great question. So I withdrew from that builder house, submitted the offer on the resale, lost that last night. The builder countered our offer with asking for the 3%. We had an appraisal contingency. We went in at $5,000 under full price. And they just countered everything, just said, or they didn't even, they just verbal countered and said, we don't normally take appraisals. I was like, well, that's nice and luxurious. It's really wonderful to be in this market for a seller, but obviously trying to help coach the buyers is a whole nother animal. Okay, so Emily, can I add this to my listing presentation? 1000%. Your loyalty agreement or your loyalty program. I don't like the word discount. I call it my loyalty program. But I'd love, if anybody comes up with other names or titles, I would love to hear it. But just know that that's why I went to flat fee versus percentage. I don't think people, I don't like it. I don't like a percentage for that discount or offering. Okay, another one that's popular is the retainer fee or the base commission. And how many, raise your hand and online for those that don't have your video on because you don't want to be seen. Do you charge a base commission or retainer fee? High and proud. All right, we've got 2 out of 10 here in the room for those at home. I make 3. Oh, Brent Cooper, like it. Brent, what do you charge for your base and retainer, please? You're on mute, friend.
350.
350. Both sides. How did you come up with the number and how do you explain it?
I explain it as just a transaction fee. And I really, honestly, it's all part of the presentation and I've never had anybody question. I wrap it into their closing cost. I don't collect it up front.
Yep.
That's how I pitch it.
I love it. And you've had success with this.
Yeah.
Great.
And Nilsson and I made a deal when we first started working together and we've done it ever since.
You and Ann Nilsson made a deal?
Yeah. Yeah. It was probably my second transaction. The both of us said, hey, on the next transaction, we're gonna ask for it, and we did, and it just became one of those things on every single transaction.
I love it. I love it. Virginia, what do you charge? 150 on the buy, 350 on the list. And why do you, and how do you explain the 350? Transaction fee? And a portion of marketing. Okay. A small portion of marketing. And I love that pitch to it, because one of the things that you can offer or say is that if when we're complete with the transaction, you will own the rights to the photos. I'm going to give you the photos for your use. Now, make sure your photographer, that's in fact included in that. I would say if their house ended up getting published on the front of Architectural Digest, the photographer will take issue with that. Okay, they would want a royalty, but otherwise, understand or have an explanation for that. So I charge $488 on the list side and $388 on the buy side. Why that number? Through some coaching, I've been taught and shared. First of all, I'm trying to look at numbers that are more palatable and tolerable. 88s tend to be that versus 95s or 99s. I don't love the arbitrary numbers of just 150 or like, I want them to think there's some intention to that. And there is, because part of that pays for my contract to close. And I explain to them that I outsource that and why, so that I'm doing the things that they hire and want me to do best, not doing the paperwork and important detail work that I have a specialist and pay them for. And then, as Virginia said, a portion of their marketing. I charge more on the listing side than buyer side because I have a lot more expense on that side as well. They tend to get it and understand, but then there's occasionally they'll say, well, so-and-so doesn't charge that, or I've never seen that before. I understand that. And let me explain to you, there's a lot of other agents in town where I'm seeing people charge as much as like $750, $850, brokerages that are near our office. They charge a lot more, and you know, they can justify that. I also think, like, if you're going to work with a brand new attorney, or I'm going to work with an attorney that has a team and system that's going to help me get to the finish line more efficiently and effectively, am I worth $488 more than somebody else? It's nothing, but it's something. And know why you have your something. Other questions on retainer fees and base commissions? Yeah? No? Okay, cool. All right, excellent. Yes, Emily, hi. I see you in the chat. What about rentals and renters? Yes, about charging a fee to help assist them. This is fun. You can come on, you can, yes, she says, this is fun. I know you're there, but maybe you're somewhere and you don't want to put video on her. All good. Yes, so rental service is becoming a much more popular service as well. And I would have a plan and a fee for that. It's time and gas and expertise. And most of the time, the offering by the compensation in RealTrax or Zillow is near nothing. And I think that the tools are there for a buyer to do it themselves, just like you can cut your own hair. How much more is it worth to have somebody else do it? For some people, it's $15.99 at Great Clips. I love the app. I can show up anytime. It tells me when I never wait. It's fantastic. They have millions of users on this Great Clips app. Now, it doesn't look great, but it does the job. And there's other people like my mother that will pay $3.95 and has for 27 years. It goes back to things that you put value on. Excuse me. I'm gonna drink. All right. I would charge 1 month's rent with a ceiling. I'd probably do something graduated. I don't typically work with renters, but I would have a program. Village PM, which is not related to Village anymore, but still has the name. They had a service where they would charge 1 month's rent and they would help you go do the hustle. They're going to set up the appointments and drive around. It's a nightmare. It's way worse than selling a house because there's not the systems and tools to go show them, but I would have a process for it. Same thing if they want you to help you go find a renter. So most of the property management firms are going to charge the equivalent of first month's rent and then 10% a month to manage. Don't get into property management if you don't have the E&O insurance and your broker approves. It is dangerous territory, friends. It is like a commercial loan. They're not regulated, and it's the Wild West out there, and you can get yourself in serious legal issue trying to do it. So I would avoid that. Emily, did that answer your question? Okay. Seller home feedback. Let's see here. I think it's not a hard conversation, but it's one that is not had enough and people aren't candid enough with. Now, obviously my photo is an example of a terrible listing. We're not at that stage, but when I do go meet with a seller, I prepare them in advance of what our walkthrough is going to be like. And I explain that we are together going to do a tour of your home, and we're going to make an attack list of items to maximize profits and get the best offers and results. I got to always bring it back to what's the value. And that sounds like sales basic, but like, you got to give people the why. Like, why am I going through this? Why do I have to put fresh mulch in? Why does it matter that like this place is dark or cluttered or whatever? And so I use language like, I tell them this is not feedback, this is not personal, and this is not how we live. If I brought you over to my home and did this, we'd have a nice attack list at my house too. I make them get the pen and paper and we do the tour together and we start outside. And I'll say things like, okay, I'm going to suggest you get a new floor mat, either buff this front door handle or replace it. I think you need to do new mulch. We need to trim these shrubs. And at the end of this, we'll go through and put together an ABC to the list. But for now, just jot these things down and know as we go through the home, anything that's too personal, how do I describe it here? These are like my own words that I use in anything too unique, personal, crowded, or really the word I use is distracting. And that's where I kind of get around like, oh, I know you went to UT and like every buyer is like, roll tide, who cares? But you know what? People are turned off by silly and stupid things. Or they realize like, oh my God, that's my ex-girlfriend. I'm glad you married her. The showing is over, friends. Like, so let's just, you don't have to depersonalize your whole house, but let's just be mindful about things that are too cool, unique, or distracting. And I love the cool because they're like, oh my God, don't you love this medieval sword? That like, no, that we don't. Because people are going to grab it and touch it. And all of a sudden, instead of focusing on your granite countertops that you paid the builder more for, they're focused on your medieval sword that's so bizarre in the corner. They get it quickly. And they like really acquiesce to the whole, well, do what you say. Because I told them why. And I reinforce why as we're going through like, hey, I really love this. And I think we need to get rid of this. Know that the garage is really a forgiving space. Let's put those things in there. Let's pack up. When you list with me, it's not if, it's when you're moving. And so like, if you don't need it in the next 60 days, it gets in a box and goes in a space. Yes. I'm going to repeat the question for those that are listening. Sorry, here. Go ahead. That's right. Oh, I like that. That's right. And the sharing was like that when you're working with buyers and walk them through a home, if they're selling their house too, you can use those opportunities to show them the distinctions when they walk through homes about what they're experiencing. Because they're buying what they feel, not what they see. And it's all a feeling. From the moment they're sitting on the porch while you're trying to get that key out, it's judging, 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 judging. And if they judge it too hard and hate it so much, might as well just turn around and get in the car because they're not going to live there. I don't care how great, the quartz backsplash is. All right. Let's see. Brent says he does the same thing with renters, first month's rent. Let's see. Price reductions. Oh, those are awesome. Those are my favorites. You have to reduce prices. Yes, even in this market, and they're uncomfortable sometimes. Prepare them at the front end, at the listing consultation. Okay, everything is not selling in 2 minutes over list price. I know that your neighbors and everybody told you that, and I know you think we're underpricing it, but let me just prepare you. If we don't have offers within 2 to 3 weeks, that is getting stale. Which I used to make like analogies to bread and donuts, but we're getting that way. Like as long as maybe a loaf of bread or a gallon of milk will last, it's about how cool your listing is. And then after that, if we don't make adjustments, you're really just hurting yourself. And if we go out at the wrong price, you're hurting yourself as well. And so I really want to take a proactive approach to pricing before we go live, because we never get the grand opening back. And what I know is people will bid up a house but they won't bid down a house as much because they just don't see the value in it. And they're going to beat you up over it, not just at the pricing, but at the inspection, versus people that buy things that are in demand. We just offered 100 grand over on a 699 house and we lost. So the agent was impeccable in pricing that home at a very competitive price. I don't think they like grossly underpriced it, but for the offering, why did their house why did that become such a great price? Because 815 down the road for a skinny house made that thing look like a steal. And my client made an offer on the 815, withdrew, went and played the game, lost. Now we're gonna, start over.